So today we're talking more about the ISFP, what we call the gentle creator. So stay tuned for what these folks look like at work, 3 tips to be able to bring out their best. If you're an ISFP, 3 tips to be able to support our ISFP coworkers and friends, and then a stretch opportunity for ISFPs. So first we're going to dig into what ISFP means in the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, which is based on the work of Carl Jung. So that first letter I is introvert. We often talk about introverts as being battery powered, so really needing some time to recharge on their own. Folks can do any kind of job, no matter what, their profile is, if they're extroverted or introverted. So folks can still be very demonstrative and talkative and whatnot, but they need that time to be able to recharge on their own. So we call it battery powered. The S stands for sensing in Myers-Briggs type indicator. So that looks like being very detail oriented, specific, really grounded in the present moment, the here and now. Also focus on the 5 senses. So what can they see, smell, hear, etc. And so ultimately, when you learn more about this profile, they're often very sort of oriented towards being artistic. F is for feeling. So, of course, we all think we all feel, but in the Myers-Briggs type indicator system, when you see a F, it looks like people oriented, really thinking about the impact on people first, also often driven by their values. I'm like, so that introverted feeling looks like what matters to me? How can I really deeply engage in my values and have that play out in my work or in the way that I interact with the world? And then P is perceiving. So, very open-ended, want to keep their options open as long as possible. And so that's what we have: introverted, sensing, feeling, and perceiving when we think about ISFPs. And so core traits, they can often be very creative, that S and the P together, like really oriented toward experiencing the world, really engaging in the world in their 5 senses. So that creativity can be really present, maybe artistic. Um, Oftentimes very kind. So you have that introverted feeling showing up, and then present. So if you have an S in a Myers-Briggs system or an MBTI profile, folks might be really focused on the present, on the here and now. So creative, kind, and present might be some traits that we see in ISFPs. And so workplace strengths might be sensory awareness. So again, like really aware of the present moment, really in tune with what's going on in the moment. Empathetic, so potentially if they really tap into that F in the profile, they could be really empathetic and concerned about the impact on people. And then adaptable. So again, if you've got a P in the profile, like SP, they're going to be very adaptable, really are okay typically with change and things, shifting priorities in the moment, maybe spontaneous. Potentially some famous ISFPs based on their communication and and how they sort of show up in the world are the amazing artist Prince, Kevin Costner, Avril Lavigne, and Lana Del Rey. And so that's kind of big picture. So now we're going to dig into, if you're an ISFP, here are 3 tips that you might want to use to be able to leverage your strengths and one stretch opportunity. So again, you probably are very warm, empathetic, bring creativity to the workspace, and maybe some calm, being focused in that present moment and being introverted. And so to stay sort of aligned and connected, one tip for you is to prioritize beauty and harmony. So you probably are tapped into like when do things feel right? And the environment that you're experiencing really matters. So that's okay. Like really leverage that and just think about how can you bring beauty and harmony into the world that you experience so that you can be at your best and do what you need to do. Second tip is to make time for embodiment. So you probably thrive in the moment. You probably are really, excited about the present moment and maybe connected to your body. So make sure that you have some time to unplug from this crazy technology that, this world we live in full of technology. Make sure you have that time to unplug and to get moving and really enjoy the embodiment throughout the day. And then a third tip is to move at your own pace. So give yourself some room to breathe between meetings. So if you are at a job where you're really task focused or meeting focused, you have a lot of that going on, make sure that you do find time to build in space to kind of breathe and recharge and reconnect. Maybe get out and take a walk. A stretch opportunity for ISFPs is to develop project management skills to be able to stay on track for top priorities, while still allowing some space creativity. So that also, I have ENTP preferences, so not exactly the same as the ISFP, but I think it's really valuable for everyone who has a P profile to be able to think about, okay, like we love that flexibility. We love to be able to shift priorities and be spontaneous. And in the world that we live in, it's important to have like some structure, some planning time. So take time to be able to plan, understand what your top priorities are, and make sure that you like figure out how to knock those out, while also allowing yourself some space to breathe and move and shift within that project plan. If you work with an ISFP, we're going to give you 3 tips to be able to support them and to be at their best. And one tip is to respect their independence. They probably see the world through details, but also need that flexibility. So again, we see a P in a profile. I'm sure if you see an introverted P as well, they probably need some time to be spontaneous and shift priorities and whatnot. So try not to micromanage, because if you micromanage how they're spending every moment of their time, that is going to really frustrate them and it might make them shut down. And again, like if you have an introverted profile, you might not see that right off the bat. They might not be quick to tell you, but that can really stifle folks' creativity and trust and connection. So make sure that you respect their independence, give them some space to be spontaneous. So again, as we talked about their stretch opportunity, it could look like, making sure they have a solid plan, they know what their priorities are, but then giving them some flexibility with what that looks like and with how they spend their time. I think it's a great tip for pretty much anyone that you manage as well. A second tip is to be gentle with feedback. So um, folks who have this profile, this ISFP profile, might be a little sensitive to tone. And again, probably in tune with empathy, probably connected to people and really earnest about what you're saying. So make sure that when you give feedback, just be empathetic to folks and sort of lead with some care and trust. There's some great ways to do that. If you want to learn more, just reach out and I can help support you there. And then a third tip is to connect to purpose. So they want to, with that introverted feeling in the profile, they probably are really in depth and in touch with what their values are, and they want to see their values lived out in the world. And so that purpose is really important to them, most likely. And so they will really get invested and really dig in and really be motivated when the work that they're doing aligns with who they are, with their values. If they can really understand their values and see how that their work is connected to that purpose and their values, then you can have like a rock star teammate who's really engaged in the work. So again, respect their independence, be gentle with feedback, and connect to purpose are our 3 tips for supporting ISFPs. If you are a person who enjoys the DISC system, DISC, it is also based on the work of Carl Jung, just like the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. So both of these originated from the work of Carl Jung, and it was about people trying to bring his work to the world and just trying to put it more in layman's terms so that we can use it more broadly. And so the DISC, we often see ISFPs, there might be an overlap with S or steadiness behaviors. So ISFPs can often be like loyal, highly attuned to emotional cues, maybe that strong glue in the background, like one of those folks. And so we often see that S profile in DISC, meaning like steadiness, stability, a strong teammate in the background. So I really love digging into leadership, helping people be able to develop their own style, understand like how they tick and how they communicate, how they work, as well as to help people work with others really well to navigate conflict, to build trust, to improve communication. So if you'd like to learn more, reach out at www.kjconsultinggroup.com. Thank you.